framed her CEO because she wanted to take her husband, but was disgraced. My name is Claire Whitman, and I have always believed in quiet strength. I am not the kind of woman who seeks attention or drama. I prefer to let my work speak for itself. For 7 years, I have been employed at Hartwell Industries, a technology firm that has grown from a small startup into a major player in our city. I started as a junior analyst and worked my way up to senior project coordinator through dedication and late nights. My colleagues respect me because I am reliable and honest. I have never been involved in office politics or gossip. My CEO, Jonathan Blake, is a brilliant man who built this company from nothing. I admire his vision and leadership, but our relationship has always been strictly professional. I report to him on major projects, and he trusts my judgment. That trust means everything to me, and I have never given him reason to doubt my loyalty. My husband, Nathan, is the anchor in my life. We met in college, both of us studying business administration, and married 3 years after graduation. He works as a financial consultant at a different firm across town. We have built a comfortable life together through careful planning and mutual respect. Nathan is not flashy or loud. He is thoughtful, kind, and steady. Every morning, we share coffee before work, and every evening, we talk about our days. We do not have children yet, but we are saving for a house with a backyard where we can start that chapter. Our friends call us boring sometimes, teasing that we are too predictable. But I love our predictability. I love knowing that when I come home, Nathan will be there with a smile. Our marriage is built on honesty and trust, and I have never questioned his commitment to me. Everything changed 6 months ago when Hartwell Industries hired Vanessa Cole as our new senior vice president of operations. The company was expanding rapidly, and Jonathan needed someone with experience to manage our growing team. Vanessa came with impressive credentials from larger companies in other cities. On her first day, she walked into the office wearing a designer suit and expensive heels, her blonde hair perfectly styled. She commanded attention immediately. During her introduction meeting, she spoke with confidence about efficiency, innovation, and results. Jonathan seemed pleased with his choice. Vanessa was charming and professional, shaking hands with everyone and remembering names instantly. I noticed how she smiled at people, making each person feel important. She had ambition written all over her, the kind that pushes people to the top. I respected that. I thought she would be a valuable addition to our team. The company holiday party was held at an upscale hotel downtown 3 weeks after Vanessa joined us. Employees brought their spouses and partners for the evening celebration. Nathan came with me, wearing the navy suit I had helped him pick out. He looked handsome, and I felt proud walking in with him. The ballroom was decorated with white lights and elegant centerpieces. Vanessa arrived alone, stunning in a red dress that turned heads. Throughout the evening, I noticed her watching our table. At first, I thought she was just observing everyone, learning faces and connections. But her gaze kept returning to Nathan. When I introduced them, she held his hand a moment too long and asked where he worked, what he did, how he liked his job. Her question seemed too personal for a first meeting. Nathan answered politely but briefly, clearly uncomfortable with her intensity. I brushed it off as her being overly friendly. After that party, Vanessa started appearing in unexpected places. She would drop by my desk to ask about projects, then casually mention Nathan. She asked if he enjoyed sports, what restaurants we liked, whether he traveled for work. I answered vaguely, sensing something off but not wanting to seem paranoid or unfriendly. She began scheduling meetings near the building where Nathan worked, then mentioning she had seen him. Once, she suggested we all have lunch together, calling it networking between companies. I made excuses each time, keeping my tone polite but firm. Nathan noticed too. He told me she had sent him a connection request on a professional networking site, which he ignored. She started commenting on his few public social media posts. These small things added up, creating an uncomfortable pattern. But I told myself I was overthinking it. Maybe she was just lonely in a new city. I decided to focus on my work instead of worrying about Vanessa. A major product launch was approaching, and I was leading the coordination team. The project consumed my days and many evenings. I trusted my marriage completely. Nathan and I talked about Vanessa briefly, agreeing that some people are just overly social. He promised to keep things distant and professional if they ever crossed paths. I believed in our foundation. We had been through challenges before and always emerged stronger. I threw myself into spreadsheets, timelines, and vendor negotiations. My team depended on me, and I would not let personal discomfort distract me from delivering results. Jonathan praised my progress during our weekly check-ins. Everything seemed stable. I felt foolish for letting Vanessa's behavior bother me. I reminded myself that strong women should support each other, not suspect each other. I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. Slowly, Vanessa's treatment of me began to change. In meetings, she would interrupt me mid-sentence or dismiss my suggestions without consideration. When I presented ideas, she would pause, then rephrase them as her own moments later. Other colleagues noticed but said nothing. She remained charming and supportive to everyone else, laughing at their jokes and praising their work. But toward me, she became cold and critical. She questioned my decisions in front of the team, asking if I had double-checked my data or thought through the consequences. Her tone was always professional enough that I could not complain without sounding petty. But the message was clear: she did not respect me. I started dreading meetings where she would be present. My confidence began to waver under her constant scrutiny. I wondered if I had done something to offend her, but I could not think of any interaction that would justify this hostility. Jonathan started acting differently toward me around the same time. Our usual easy rapport became strained. He seemed distracted during our project meetings, often checking his phone or cutting our discussions short. He stopped asking for my input on decisions outside my direct responsibilities, something he had always done before. I noticed he was having frequent closed-door meetings with Vanessa. Sometimes these meetings lasted over an hour. When they emerged, Jonathan looked serious and troubled. Vanessa wore a concerned expression that disappeared the moment she walked away. I tried to tell myself this was normal. She was new leadership, and they needed to align on strategy. But Jonathan had never shut me out before. Once, I asked him directly if everything was all right. He gave me a tight smile and said everything was fine, just busy with expansion plans. His eyes did not meet mine. That worried me more than anything. Rumors started circulating through the office like poison in the water supply. I would walk into the break room, and conversations would stop abruptly. People who used to chat with me warmly became awkward and distant. My assistant, Julie, who had worked with me for 3 years, started avoiding eye contact. One afternoon, I overheard 2 junior employees talking in the stairwell. They mentioned my name, then something about loyalty issues and possible security concerns. My heart pounded as I listened. When I pushed open the door, they jumped and hurried away. I felt sick. What were people saying about me? I tried to approach my closest colleague, Robert, to ask if he had heard anything. He became uncomfortable and changed the subject quickly. The isolation was crushing. I had spent years building relationships and credibility at this company. Now, everyone was treating me like a stranger or worse, like a threat. My instincts told me something serious was happening behind the scenes. I started paying closer attention to everything around me. I noticed people watching me when I accessed certain files or made phone calls. IT made an unusual visit to my computer, claiming they were updating security software. That had never happened to just one person before. Usually, updates rolled out company-wide. I began to feel paranoid, but the evidence kept mounting. Someone was documenting my activities. During a project meeting, Vanessa asked very specific questions about a report I had accessed 2 days earlier. How did she know which files I had opened? I had not discussed that report with anyone yet. After the meeting, I checked the access logs for that document. My entry was there, but so was another entry from an administrative account, viewing the file minutes after I had closed it. Someone was tracking my digital footprint. The situation with Nathan came to a head at a networking event downtown. Several companies in our industry had rented a venue for an evening of socializing and business discussion. Nathan's firm was invited, as was Hartwell Industries. We arrived separately due to our work schedules. I was talking with a vendor when I saw Vanessa approach Nathan at the bar. She touched his arm, leaning in close to speak over the music. I watched as she laughed, her hand lingering on his sleeve. Nathan stepped back, his body language clearly uncomfortable. He said something brief, then walked away toward me. Vanessa's smile vanished, replaced by a cold stare directed at his retreating back. Later that night, Nathan told me everything. She had suggested they meet for drinks to discuss potential business synergies between our companies. When he declined, she had touched his face and called him handsome. He had removed her hand and told her firmly that he was happily married and not interested. He wanted me to know immediately. After Nathan rejected her, Vanessa transformed completely. The mask of charm disappeared entirely when she looked at me. Her eyes held pure hatred. She stopped pretending to be civil. In meetings, she openly challenged everything I said. She assigned me to minor tasks beneath my position, then criticized how I completed them. She scheduled important discussions when she knew I had conflicts, then complained I was absent. Other employees noticed the change but seemed afraid to defend me. The rumors intensified. I heard whispers about performance issues and questionable judgment. None of it was true, but the constant attacks were exhausting. I realized with cold clarity that Vanessa had wanted Nathan, probably saw him as a trophy or a challenge. When he refused her, she could not handle the rejection. Instead of accepting it with grace, she decided to punish me. If she could not have what she wanted, she would destroy what I had. On a Tuesday morning in March, I was called into Jonathan's office. His face was grave. Vanessa sat in one of the chairs, wearing an expression of disappointed concern. Jonathan told me that serious allegations had been made against me. According to evidence Vanessa had discovered, I had been leaking confidential company data to competitors. Specifically, product development information and pricing strategies had appeared on industry forums traced back to my computer and email account. I felt the blood drain from my face. I told him this was absolutely false, that I would never betray the company. Jonathan looked pained but said the evidence was clear. IT had confirmed the data breaches originated from my accounts. Until an investigation was completed, I was suspended immediately. I needed to surrender my access badge and leave the building. I looked at Vanessa. She met my eyes with a small, satisfied smile. I understood then. This was not about work. This was revenge. I drove home in shock, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. By the time I arrived, news of my suspension had already spread. My phone buzzed with messages from colleagues, some sympathetic, most distant. My professional reputation was collapsing. People I had worked with for years now questioned my integrity. The company I had dedicated myself to believed I was a criminal. Nathan came home early when I called him. He held me while I cried angry, frustrated tears. I was not crying because I felt defeated. I was crying because I was furious. Vanessa had systematically destroyed my credibility because she could not handle rejection. She had manipulated Jonathan, poisoned my relationships, and framed me for corporate espionage. But she had made one critical mistake. She had underestimated me. I was not going to collapse or run away. I was going to fight back, and I was going to win. I spent the next week in careful, quiet preparation. I did not rant on social media or call former colleagues to protest my innocence. Instead, I became methodical. I created a timeline of every interaction with Vanessa since she had joined the company. I documented the holiday party, her questions about Nathan, her changed behavior, the rumors, everything. Nathan helped me gather evidence of her attempts to contact him. We printed her networking requests, her social media comments, her messages. I requested copies of all my work emails and files through the official investigation process. I hired a lawyer who specialized in employment law and wrongful termination. She was expensive, but Nathan and I agreed this was worth every penny. My lawyer advised me to stay calm and professional throughout the process. She said emotional responses would weaken my case. I needed to be the rational, credible professional I had always been. My lawyer obtained the evidence against me through legal channels. I reviewed every document carefully. The emails allegedly sent from my account were sophisticated forgeries. They used my writing style and signature, but the metadata showed inconsistencies. The timestamps did not match my actual work patterns. Several emails were supposedly sent during times when I had been in meetings with witnesses who could verify my location. The leaked documents had indeed come from my computer, but the access logs showed they were downloaded at odd hours, often late at night when I was not in the office. Building security records proved I had not been there. Someone with administrative access had used my credentials remotely. I showed everything to my lawyer. She smiled for the first time since I had hired her. This was not just defendable. This was provable fraud. Someone had gone to great lengths to frame me, and they had left tracks everywhere. Nathan's technical skills became invaluable. He worked in financial systems and understood digital forensics better than I did. He studied the access logs and pointed out patterns I had missed. The IP addresses used to access my account came from locations outside the office, but they always routed through the company VPN. That meant someone with senior administrative privileges was involved. Nathan cross-referenced the timestamps with Vanessa's calendar, which was semi-public within the company. Nearly every suspicious access to my files occurred during times when Vanessa had no scheduled meetings. She had opportunity. We dug deeper into the metadata of the forged emails. The software used to create them left digital fingerprints. Nathan found similar fingerprints in other documents that Vanessa had legitimately created. Her computer had generated the forgeries. The evidence was building into an undeniable picture. Vanessa had framed me systematically, using her access and authority to make it look authentic. The breakthrough came when we examined the internal access logs more carefully. Every senior executive had administrative credentials that allowed them to access employee accounts for legitimate oversight purposes. These accesses were logged but rarely reviewed unless there was a specific complaint. I requested all administrative access to my accounts over the past 6 months. The logs showed Vanessa had accessed my email and files over 40 times, far more than any legitimate oversight would require. She had read my private messages, reviewed my project files, and studied my work patterns. She had used this information to create forgeries that matched my style perfectly. But she had also made mistakes. On 3 occasions, she had accessed my accounts while I was simultaneously logged in from my actual computer. The system logged both sessions. That should have been impossible unless someone was using stolen credentials. This was the smoking gun we needed. As all the pieces came together, the full picture of Vanessa's scheme became crystal clear. She had joined the company and immediately noticed Nathan at the holiday party. She had become fixated on him, probably seeing him as a challenge or status symbol. When he rejected her advances, her obsession turned to revenge. She could not destroy Nathan directly without exposing herself, so she decided to destroy me instead. By framing me for corporate espionage, she removed me from the company, ruined my reputation, and probably hoped the stress would destroy my marriage. She had manipulated Jonathan by presenting him with convincing false evidence, positioning herself as the vigilant executive who had uncovered a traitor. This made her look valuable while eliminating someone she hated. It was calculated, vicious, and almost brilliant. But Vanessa had been so confident in her position and authority that she had been careless with the digital evidence. She never imagined I would fight back this effectively. I informed the company that I was requesting a formal review hearing, as was my right under company policy and my employment contract. My lawyer submitted a request along with a notice that we had uncovered significant irregularities in the evidence against me. Jonathan's assistant called within 2 hours to schedule the hearing for the following Monday. The executive board would be present, along with Jonathan, the head of HR, and legal counsel. Vanessa would be there as the accusing party. I could bring my lawyer and present my defense. The days leading up to the hearing were tense. I prepared my presentation carefully, organizing evidence into clear, undeniable sequences. I practiced my delivery until it was calm and factual. Nathan helped me stay focused when anxiety threatened to overwhelm me. The night before the hearing, I barely slept. But when morning came, I was ready. I dressed in my most professional suit, the one I wore for major presentations. I was walking into that room not as a victim, but as a professional demanding justice. The hearing room was intimidating. The executive board sat along one side of a long table. Jonathan sat at the head, his expression carefully neutral. Vanessa sat across from where I would present, looking confident and composed. She wore a conservative suit and had her hair pulled back severely. She looked like someone responsible and serious. My lawyer sat beside me as I stood to present my case. I began by thanking everyone for their time and consideration. Then I methodically walked through the evidence. I showed the metadata inconsistencies in the forged emails. I presented security logs proving I was not in the building when files were accessed from my account. I displayed the IP address patterns and administrative access logs showing Vanessa had entered my accounts over 40 times. I showed the simultaneous login sessions that proved credential theft. I presented Nathan's evidence of Vanessa's inappropriate behavior toward him. Finally, I showed the timeline connecting her rejection to the beginning of false accusations. The room was completely silent. Every face stared at the screen, then at Vanessa. Jonathan's face went from neutral to shocked to furious as the evidence accumulated. The board members whispered among themselves. The head of legal was making rapid notes. When I finished, there was a long moment of heavy silence. Then Jonathan turned to Vanessa and asked if she had anything to say in her defense. Vanessa's confidence was cracking. Her face had gone pale. She tried to claim the evidence was circumstantial, that administrative access was part of her job, that I was creating conspiracy theories to cover my guilt. But her voice wavered. The head of legal asked her to explain the simultaneous login sessions. She could not. He asked about the metadata fingerprints matching her computer. She said it must be a mistake. He asked about her contact with my husband. She claimed it was friendly networking. Nathan was present and stood to speak. He calmly stated that her advances had been unwelcome and inappropriate, that he had rejected her clearly, and that he would testify under oath if necessary. Vanessa's face flushed red. Her carefully constructed lies were falling apart in real time. As the questioning continued, Vanessa began to unravel completely. Her polished composure shattered. She raised her voice, accusing me of manipulating the evidence somehow. She claimed I was jealous of her success and trying to undermine her position. She insisted she had only been trying to protect the company from a real threat. But the more she talked, the more desperate she sounded. The board members exchanged glances. Jonathan looked like he had been struck. He had trusted her completely, and she had used that trust to frame an innocent employee for personal revenge. Finally, Vanessa made her fatal mistake. In her desperation, she screamed that I did not deserve Nathan, that he should have been with someone more sophisticated, more successful. The room went completely silent. She had just admitted her motive in front of everyone. The head of HR closed her notebook slowly. Jonathan stood, his face cold and hard. He told Vanessa that her employment was terminated effective immediately, that she should collect her belongings under security escort, and that the company would be pursuing all legal options for her fraud and misconduct. Vanessa tried to speak, but Jonathan cut her off. Security was called. As two officers appeared in the doorway, Vanessa looked around the room desperately, searching for any sympathy or support. She found none. Everyone looked at her with disgust or disappointment. As she was escorted out, she shot me one final look of pure hatred. But I felt no satisfaction, only exhaustion. The head of legal told me that the company would be issuing a formal apology and that all accusations against me were withdrawn completely. I would be reinstated immediately with full back pay and compensation for damages. Jonathan approached me after the board members left. He apologized quietly, saying he should have questioned the evidence more carefully, should have trusted his 7 years of experience with me over 3 months with someone new. I accepted his apology but told him trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. He nodded, understanding. Vanessa's name was removed from all company materials within 24 hours. Her industry reputation was destroyed. Multiple companies she had worked for previously began investigating whether she had engaged in similar misconduct. She would not work in our field again. 3 months have passed since that hearing. I am back at my desk, leading projects and rebuilding relationships with my colleagues. The experience changed me. I am more cautious now, more aware that ambition without integrity is dangerous. I learned that patience and evidence are more powerful than emotional reactions. I learned that the truth, when documented carefully and presented clearly, is unstoppable. My marriage to Nathan is stronger than ever. We went through fire together and emerged united. Jonathan has worked hard to restore our professional relationship, and gradually, I am learning to trust his judgment again. The company implemented new oversight policies for administrative access to prevent future abuse. My reputation has been fully restored. But the most important lesson I carry forward is this. When someone tries to destroy you, do not descend to their level. Stay calm, stay focused, gather your evidence, and let the truth speak louder than any lie. Dignity and patience will always defeat desperation and revenge. Vanessa wanted to take everything from me. Instead, she lost everything herself. That is the true disgrace, not in being accused falsely, but in becoming the kind of person who would destroy another human being for such shallow, selfish reasons. I won by refusing to become what she was.